The great palace of Varelna Prime shimmered like glass under twin suns. Its walls glowed with soft blue light. Its towers reached the sky like silver spears. Inside the grand hall, nobles of every alien house stood in perfect rows, their armor polished, their faces proud. They were waiting for one person, and that person was not one of them. He entered through the main gate, walking slowly but with quiet confidence. A human, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark armor scarred from battles older than most of those watching him. His name was Commander Reed, once a soldier of the Human Alliance, now assigned as a peace envoy to the Varelna court. The guards stared with open dislike, some whispering, others turning away. To them, humans were rough, unrefined creatures from a dying world. But the Queen had allowed him to stand among them, and no one dared question her word. At the far end of the hall sat Queen Sarathia, the ruler of 10 star systems. Her eyes were cold crystal, her voice soft as wind, yet her presence commanded silence. Beside her stood her daughter, Princess Liara, radiant and sharp-tongued. When Reed approached the throne, Liara leaned close to her mother and laughed quietly. "So this is the human warrior you brought into our court," she said, her tone filled with mockery. "He looks like a relic from the wars." Reed heard her but said nothing. He bowed slightly, showing respect, though the court expected him to stumble or beg. The Queen spoke first, her tone careful. "You have come far, Commander Reed. Your people have honored their alliance." He nodded, his voice steady. "Humanity keeps its word." "Your Majesty," the hall filled with murmurs, some surprised by his calmness, some angered by his confidence. Liara stepped forward, circling him slowly, her silver gown brushing the floor. "You fought in the outer wars, did you not, human?" she asked. "Yes, Princess," he replied. "And how many of your kind survived?" She smiled coldly. "Fewer than we hoped," he answered simply. Her laughter rang across the hall, light and cruel. "Then perhaps you're here to remind us what extinction looks like." For a moment, no one moved. The Queen's expression did not change, but her fingers tightened on the arm of her throne. Reed met the princess's eyes, not with anger but something deeper, pity, he said quietly. "Extinction does not frighten those who have already faced it." The hall fell silent. Even Liara's smile faded. The Queen studied him carefully, as if seeing something she had not expected. Later that evening, after the court was dismissed, Reed stood alone on the balcony overlooking the city. Light stretched across the horizon like stars scattered on the ground. He could still hear Liara's laughter echoing in his mind. He had heard laughter like that before, on ruined worlds. Just before the skies burned, he touched the scar on his wrist, the mark of the old command code from the human fleet. He had come here with orders to watch, to wait, and to remember. But sometimes remembering hurt more than war itself. Below the balcony, alien musicians played soft songs carried by the wind. The Queen appeared behind him, her steps quiet, her presence calm. "You did not answer her insults," she said. "I have learned that truth needs no defense," he replied. Sarathia nodded slowly, her eyes thoughtful. "My daughter is young and proud. She was raised to believe humans were weak." Reed smiled faintly. "Perhaps she is right." The Queen looked at him. "Do you believe that?" He turned toward the city, his voice barely a whisper. "I believe weakness is only seen by those who have never been tested." As he spoke, the horizon flickered, a faint red pulse spreading through the clouds. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "The defense grid, it reacts to something." Reed's expression hardened, memories flooding back. He had seen that light before, long ago, on the edge of another dying world. "It cannot be," he murmured. "Not again." The Queen glanced at him, sensing the change in his voice. "What do you know of that light, Commander?" Reed did not answer, his eyes fixed on the distance. He could almost hear the old machines waking, the same sound that had ended the colony of Eldarion. He turned slowly toward the Queen, his face pale under the fading sun. "I will tell you, Your Majesty," he said quietly, "but not here, not with so many ears." Far below, Liara stood at her chamber window, watching the same red glow for the first time. She felt a strange unease, a chill that no royal blood could silence. In her mind, she saw the human's calm eyes, the way he never reacted to her words. Something inside her whispered that his silence was not weakness. It was warning. The Queen called for her council. The bells of the palace rang through the night, But Reed remained on the balcony, staring into the horizon as the first storm clouds gathered. The wind carried the scent of metal and ash, and in that moment, he knew. The past he tried to forget was coming back somewhere beyond the stars. The enemy that had once erased worlds was moving again, and this time it was coming for them all. The council chamber of Varelna was carved from crystal and light. It shimmered with gold veins that pulsed like living stars, yet the air inside was heavy. The queen sat upon her high throne, surrounded by her ministers, their faces carved in cold judgment. Commander Reed stood before them, calm and silent, his armor dim under the glow of the great hall. "You saw the sky burn last night," the queen said softly. "Tell us what it means." Reed's eyes lifted toward her, quiet, certain. "It means the same thing it meant on Eldarion," he said. "The harvesters are awake." A chill swept through the chamber. The ministers exchanged uneasy looks, pretending they did not know the name, but they did, and so did she. The queen leaned forward, her voice low. "That name is forbidden, human. No record exists of such a place." Reed's jaw tightened, his voice steady. "No record exists because your council buried it." Every noble in the room stiffened. Liara, standing near her mother, stared at him with wide eyes. "How dare you speak so to the queen?" one minister shouted. Reed turned his gaze to him, unflinching. "I was there," he said simply. "When your ancestors begged the human fleet for help." The room fell silent again. Reed stepped forward, his shadow long upon the shining floor. "You erased us from your history, but your world still stands because of us," he continued. "The harvesters came once before, machines built to consume worlds, to erase life that resisted." He paused, his voice rough now. "And we fought them. Every human fleet, every ship, until there was nothing left of us." Liara's breath caught, her voice small. "You mean humans saved Varelna?" Reed looked at her, his eyes calm but sad. "Yes, princess. Your world was fire and ash when we arrived." He turned toward the council. "And when it ended, we left you with peace. And you thanked us by rewriting the truth." The queen's hands trembled slightly, her heart pounding beneath her calm expression. She had heard whispers of an old alliance, but never dared believe it. "Why come now, Commander?" she asked quietly. "After so long?" Reed's gaze turned toward the tall windows, where dawn burned red once more. "Because they are returning," he said. "The same signal I saw last night was the one that marked their invasion. Centuries ago." His words hung in the air like a shadow no one could escape. One of the counselors slammed his hand against the table. "This is human fear-mongering," he spat. "A trick to regain influence. The war you speak of never happened." Reed didn't move. He only reached into his armor and pulled out a small crystal drive. He placed it on the floor, and light burst from it. Holograms of old battles filling the air. Massive human ships burning through clouds of metal machines. Alien cities falling. The queen rose to her feet, shock in her eyes. Liara covered her mouth, unable to look away. The images were real, too real. Reed's voice broke the silence. "This is what your ancestors hid. The proof that humanity fought and bled for you." The queen whispered. "Why would they hide this?" Reed looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Because fear keeps people loyal, and the council needed your people to believe they never needed anyone." The council members began to murmur, their voices rising in anger and panic. The queen silenced them with a single raised hand. Her eyes turned toward Reed. "If this is true, then your coming here was not chance." Reed nodded slowly. "I was sent here because my world knew sooner or later the cycle would repeat." He stepped closer, his tone lower, heavier. "And when it does, you will not survive it alone." Liara looked at him differently now, the arrogance in her eyes replaced by something new, respect mixed with guilt. She had mocked him before, but now his silence made sense. He had carried the weight of a truth no one wanted to hear. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" she asked quietly. "Because you wouldn't have listened," he said. "Sometimes a world must see its sky burn before it believes the storm is real." That night, the queen walked alone through the palace corridors, her thoughts racing. The stars above shimmered red and faint. She stopped by the window where her daughter stood watching the sky. "Mother," Liara said softly. "He's telling the truth, isn't he?" The queen nodded slowly, her voice trembling. "Yes, my child. And I fear we may already be too late. Far beyond the edge of the system, among the frozen asteroids, something vast moved. Black metal wings unfolded, engines whispering in the dark. The harvesters, silent for ages, stirred once more. Their cold voices echoed through the void. Target reacquired, they said. Virilna Prime, unfinished task, and back in the palace. Reed opened his communicator, his voice steady but grim. This is Commander Reed of the Human Alliance Sentinel program, he said. Contact Earth. Tell them, the harvesters are awake again. Night fell over Virilna like a storm of glass and light. The twin moons hung low, bleeding faint red across the clouds. The capital city glowed with its usual calm, unaware that beyond its shimmering skyline something ancient was waking. Commander Reed stood at the command balcony of the palace, his armor reflecting the dying glow. He had not slept since the warning appeared. His eyes traced the stars, remembering every battle lost, every world burned. He could almost hear them, the metallic whispers of the machines that never spoke words. Only purpose, the queen entered quietly, her gown trailing silver light. You were right, she said softly. Our outer colonies have gone silent. Reed didn't turn, his voice calm but heavy. Then they are already here. Liara stood behind her mother, fear hidden behind her proud eyes. What are they, truly? She asked. What kind of monsters erase whole worlds? Reed looked at her for a long moment before answering. They are not monsters, he said. They are what happens when creation forgets mercy. Suddenly, a low hum shook the palace walls. The sky outside shimmered, streaks of red light slicing through the clouds from the horizon. Black shapes emerged, massive metal vessels with glowing cores. Each one carried thousands of autonomous drones, their movements sharp and perfect. The royal defense grid activated. Bolts of blue energy fired into the night, but the beams hit the invaders and vanished. Absorbed like dust in water, shields are useless, Reed said coldly. They adapt faster than your systems can change. The queen turned to her generals, shouting orders. But panic had already taken root. Every communication line filled with screams and static. Reed walked past them, his armor shifting, panels opening along his back. Stand down, he said quietly. This is not your fight. The soldiers stared in disbelief as he activated a hidden code etched into his suit. The lights in the room dimmed, and a voice spoke from his armor. Calm and ancient, human command recognized, Sentinel protocol online. A deep vibration rolled through the ground as the palace floor cracked open. From beneath the city, a buried structure awakened, an enormous human warship long sealed under alien foundations. Its name glowed faintly across its side, HSS Valiant. The queen stepped back in shock. That ship? It's been under our palace for centuries, Reed nodded slowly. It was placed here after the First War as a last defense. The ship's engines roared to life. Shattering the night silence, citizens poured into the streets, staring upward as the ground beneath them trembled. Liara looked at Reed, awe and guilt mixing in her eyes. You came here to watch us. To protect us, Reed smiled faintly. I came here to make sure history didn't repeat itself. The first wave of harvester drones descended upon the city, raining plasma like fire from heaven. Buildings collapsed. Alarms wailed. The skies turned red and black. Reed's voice echoed through the comms. All civilians to the lower sectors. Activate the shelter grid. Keep your skies clear. He leapt into the airlock chamber of the Valiant, sealing the door behind him. Inside, the ship's AI flickered to full power, its voice warm yet metallic. Welcome back, Commander. Shall we finish what we started? Reed took the command seat, his hands gripping the controls. Yes, he said. Let's remind them why humanity was never erased. From the surface, the Queen and Liara watched as the human warship rose from beneath the city like a star reborn. Its cannons unfolded, each glowing with ancient power. The first blast split the sky, vaporizing an entire harvester vessel in a single strike. The shockwave rolled across the city, shaking every tower but filling every heart with hope. The Queen whispered, by the stars, he is one man against an army. Liara's voice trembled. No, mother, he is more than a man. Above the burning clouds, the battle raged. For every harvester that fell, another rose. The Valiant's shields flickered, its hull groaning, but Reed kept fighting, his voice calm, his heart steady. He knew this was not just about Virilna. If the harvesters broke through, the entire galaxy would follow. Inside the palace, the Queen stood before her council once more. Her eyes were fierce now, no longer uncertain. You called him primitive, she said coldly. You mocked his kind, but now you see, one human stands where our fleets have fallen. The council bowed their heads in shame and silence. Outside, the red light faded for a moment, and across the sky the human warship shone brighter than the sun's. In that fleeting calm, Liara whispered, "Perhaps the gods we prayed to were never gods at all." The queen looked toward the horizon, her voice quiet but sure. "No, my child. They were humans, and above them," Reed's voice echoed across every comm channel, "hold your ground. The war isn't over yet." The dawn over Varelna was not gold but crimson. Smoke curled across the royal city like wounded silk. From every tower came the echoes of alarms and the distant roar of weapons. The Valiant still hovered above the palace, its hull scarred, its light pulsing like a tired heart. Inside the command hall, the queen walked through the haze of broken glass and firelight. Her guards followed, carrying wounded civilians instead of banners. She had ruled by power all her life, but that morning she ruled by mercy. Every corridor smelled of smoke and iron, every face carried fear. "Status?" she asked, her voice steady though her hands trembled. A young officer bowed. "Our fleets are falling back. The human ship holds the line alone." The queen turned toward the high window. Far above, a beam of white light cut through the sky, and she whispered. "Reed." Liara entered, her armor dented, her eyes raw from tears and ash. "Mother," she said softly, "the council wants to flee to the outer moons." The queen looked at her daughter for a long moment. "If we run now, we become the lie we built," she said. "We must stand with him." She walked toward the royal archive chamber, a place forbidden even to her advisors. The doors opened with a whisper of old power, revealing ancient tablets and sealed holograms. Dust drifted in beams of light. "Years ago, your father told me there were truths hidden even from the throne," she said. She pressed her hand to a glowing panel, and the air filled with moving light. The image of old human commanders appeared, records erased from history. Their voices spoke in broken fragments, joint command between Human Alliance and Varelna Empire. Victory at Eldarion came at great cost. The queen's knees weakened. All her life she had believed her people stood above humanity. Yet these records showed unity, not conquest, Liara whispered. "We were saved by them, weren't we?" The queen nodded. "And then we buried their name." She rose, her eyes cold with new fire. "No more lies," she said. "If truth must break our crown, then let it outside." The harvesters began their final descent. Massive like falling moons, Reed's ship trembled under the pressure. Its shields flickering, he opened a channel to the palace. "Your Majesty," his voice came through static. "Evacuate the city. The Valiant cannot hold much longer," the queen answered. "No evacuation, Commander. You will not fight alone." The message shocked everyone in the hall. She turned to her generals. "Activate every ground battery, every drone. Even the relics from the museum vaults," she ordered. "Link them to the humans' command frequency." The technicians hesitated. "But my queen, human code is incompatible," she interrupted. "Then make it compatible. Our survival depends on it." As the system synced, the royal city lights turned blue. The human AI's voice filled every speaker. Network connection complete. Combined defense grid online. For the first time in centuries, human and Varelnian technology moved as one. The queen stepped onto the palace balcony, her armor shining with red light. Below her, thousands of soldiers looked up, waiting. She raised her hand, her voice echoing through the broken city. "My people," she said, "we once hid from the truth. We thought pride would save us, but only courage will." She pointed toward the sky where Reed fought alone. "That human fights for us when we mocked him. When we doubted him, if he can stand against the storm, so can we." The soldiers raised their weapons. Roaring as one, Liara watched her mother, her heart swelling with pride. For the first time, she saw not a queen of cold beauty, but a leader of light. She whispered, "This is the awakening." In orbit, Reed saw the power surge from the surface. Connecting to his ship, new energy flowed into his systems. Stabilizing the Valiant's shields, he smiled faintly. "So, the Queen decided to fight," the AI replied. "It seems you've reminded them what humanity means," Reed answered quietly. "Not humanity, unity." As the combined forces fired, the sky lit up like a second sun. The first harvester's ship cracked apart, falling in molten fragments. The people below cheered. The Queen stood tall, tears glinting on her cheeks. She looked at the stars and whispered, "Do you see, Reed? We are not your enemies anymore." And somewhere above, his voice came through the comm. calm and warm. I see you, your majesty, and for the first time I see hope. The night burned with battle and faith. Two worlds, once divided by arrogance, now stood side by side, and in that fire the Queen of Varelna was reborn. The sky of Varelna burned like dawn and dusk at once. Red fire and silver clouds twisted together as the last harvester fleet descended. The ground shook with thunder, the air tasted of metal and dust. From the palace to the far mountains, every eye turned upward, waiting, praying, hoping high above them. The HSS Valiant drifted like a wounded titan, its hull torn open, smoke spilling into space, yet its cannon still glowed. Commander Reed stood at the bridge. His armor cracked, his voice calm. "Status report," he said. The AI answered, "Main reactor failing, shields at 3%. Evacuation recommended." Reed smiled faintly. "You know I don't run." On the planet's surface, the Queen watched from her command balcony. Her daughter stood beside her, holding the royal crest.
"He can't survive that," Liara whispered, her voice breaking.
The Queen closed her eyes, her voice soft. "He already did more than any of us ever could," but then the ground trembled again, only this time not from the enemy. Dozens of Varelnian warships lifted from hidden hangars across the planet. Old rusted vessels once forgotten, now reactivated by human code. Their captains saluted the sky and linked to Reed's frequency. "We stand with you, human," the commander said through static. Reed looked at the radar and whispered, "Then let's finish this. Together." The human warship and the alien fleet charged toward the black swarm. Light met darkness, fire met shadow. Every blast from the Valiant lit the heavens. Reed's voice guided them all. No fear, no pride, only resolve. The Queen's command chamber filled with cheers as enemy vessels began to fall. Yet the largest harvester dreadnought still loomed, its shadow covering half the sky. Its voice echoed through the airwaves. "Resistance is irrelevant. Organic life will be reclaimed." Reed gritted his teeth, his hands steady on the controls. "Not today," he whispered. He overloaded the reactor, rerouting all power to the main cannon. The AI's voice grew softer. "If you fire, you won't survive." Reed smiled. "Humanity never fought to survive. We fought to protect." The final beam fired, cutting through the enemy like a sunburst. The dreadnought split apart, light consuming the sky. The blast blinded the horizon, and then silence. Only the gentle rain of debris falling like glowing stars remained. For a long moment the world stood still. Then cheers rose from every city, every mountain, every ship. The Queen looked up at the fading light, whispering his name. "Reed." The battlefield lay silent, the wreckage floating among the clouds. No signal came from the Valiant. The Queen's voice broke as she whispered, "Find him." Hours later, from the sky's edge, a small escape pod descended, glowing faintly. Soldiers rushed to it, the Queen following close behind. The hatch opened and Reed stumbled out, his armor blackened. His face pale but alive. The Queen froze, tears streaming down her cheeks. She walked toward him slowly, her crown trembling in her hands in front of the entire army. The ruler of 10 worlds fell to her knees before the human warrior. Her voice was steady but filled with emotion. "You saved not just my world, but our truth," she said. "From this day, no one will mock humanity again." Reed shook his head weakly. "I didn't save your world, your majesty, you did." When you chose to believe, Liara stepped forward. Kneeling beside her mother, she looked up at him, her voice soft. "I once mocked you, called you weak," she said. "But now I know, strength doesn't roar, it endures." Reed smiled faintly, the wind carrying away the smoke. "Then perhaps, princess, we have both learned something." The Queen rose and turned toward her people. "Let it be known across the stars," she declared. "Humanity and Varelna stand as one." The crowd erupted in cheers that echoed through the valleys and skies. And in that moment, two civilizations once divided by arrogance were united by a single bow. As night returned, Reed stood alone on the balcony once more. He looked up at the stars, their light calm again. The Queen joined him quietly. "What will you do now?" she asked. He smiled softly. "There's always another world to protect." She nodded. "And this one will remember you." Below them, the people celebrated. Above them, the stars shone brighter. And across the galaxy, a legend was born. They would tell his story for generations. The tale of the human warrior who taught a kingdom to kneel not in fear but in gratitude.